Alright, so it's time to get back to business on at home. And this is the Peckway mid-capacity rake that was lent to me by Peckway back 2 or 3 years ago now. It's been several years ago. They lent it to me. Messick's Equipment was the ones that made sure that it got here. And this rake I have done several videos on, but I think that this is the final video on this rake. I got a phone call the other day and I was told, hey, we're gonna come and get it. They've gotten everything else, but this one here they're gonna come and take. Now put this in mind that this right here is exactly what this means. Mid-capacity, mid-cap rake. Mid-capacity hay rake means that you cannot do heavy windrows with this thing. If you're running a 12-foot windrower or a 12-foot hydro swing, perfect. Running a 9-foot mower, 10-foot mower, perfect. This works perfectly. When you step up to something like that, where you're 16 feet, or 15 and a half feet, or whatever that thing is, I think it's 15 and a half feet, excuse me, that is too much for this to handle. So whenever I used this hay rake, I used it on second cut only, just second cut only. It had the 54-inch wheels on it, and I was in kind of like a partnership with Peckway, and I really like the rake. It does wonderful. It performs well in a mid-capacity roll. So the filming that I did with it was basically on second cut and second cut only. It does have its flaws, and it has its pros and its cons, let's put it that way. And I'm going to show you what they are pretty quickly. The one thing I didn't like about this hay rake for doing heavier, it would have done, let's put it this way, let me back up a little bit. This rake would have done heavier duty work if two things. If it had 60-inch wheels, which it doesn't, it has 54. I believe I've got 60s on here though. Any 60s on here? I think this is a 60. I think I put them on 60s. I can't remember. This is a left wheel. No, they're 54s. I put 54s back on here. I had to buy them special for this particular rake. If it had 60-inch wheels, and if this was not protruding down, if these springs were not protruding down, this would have made a much better rake. Now I'm going to show you that right here you see no wear there and no wear here. Then you start to see wear here, and then you really see the wear here, and by the time you get here you can see the wear in the paint. So as that hay is coming down this rake, it is getting caught here, and then by the time it gets to the back, it is already kind of goofed up and ready to plug the rake up. So, and that's in really heavy 2 16-foot windrows. And why in the hell is he making all that noise? I don't know. The thing that I do like about this rake is right here, this adjuster. This is where you adjust the size of the windrow coming out of the back, and that's really handy, really handy. I like that part a lot. The other thing I did like a lot was the individual rake arms. These were easy to service, never had an issue with them. We did have a collision with the rake and the back there and bent the hell out of that one, but it was easily straightened out and redone, put back together, no big deal. But that was it. Grease points, easily accessible. But then you get on to the hitch side of it. That is shit. Now they do this on purpose, because this rake can either be a 12 wheel like this, it could be a 10 wheel or an 8 wheel, and then they just add sections to the size of the rake. Now if you're only running an 8 wheel, that is all the way back here, and this piece isn't here, or it's very short. There's 3 different sizes, or there's only 2 different sizes here, and then that goes all the way back for the 8 wheel rake, which I imagine that's all that is, because I've never had the 8 wheel rake. Same thing here. These arms here, you want to make this an 8 wheel rake, you just take this piece here off. right? So you take this piece here off, take that there, run it to there, then you've got an 8-wheel rake. And that's it. You've got an 8-wheel rake, and it will work just fine for 8 wheels. But as a 12-wheel, it is a mid-capacity rake. I thought this was overkill. I didn't use it very often, but this is your arm control. You can engage and disengage these. These are electronic. These lights are mine. I didn't get the light kit with it. I didn't care to. It didn't matter, and it was what they gave me anyway. So I didn't really buy it. I like the heft of these, but if you look here, you see that? That's broke out. Why is that broke out? Because they didn't weld it on the inside. If they would have done a weld on the outside and a weld on the inside, that wouldn't have broken out, but it did. It broke out on both sides. It didn't break here, but it broke on the front. No big deal. If you ask me, it's really no big deal. It's just, that is what it is. And you can see after, you know, this thing is well used, but that had to be redone, and I had Cody do it, and I didn't do that, but Cody did. Hitch is nice and heavy. Yeah, they used heavy enough steel here in these points, and it didn't have this pivoting thing, which I'm about to show you on another hay rake. So hold on, I'm going to another hay rake. 5020 is going to make an appearance here. There it is. Alright, so don't judge me on what you're about to see here. It matters not. It was unfortunate what happened with this rake, but it had to happen because we needed to keep going, and then it just happened to keep becoming a cannibalized piece of equipment. This is the newest one of these H&S action rakes, okay? So what happened was Grant, in his inexperience in running these things, and this will be all repaired here in the next couple of days. We're going to completely redo it. He backed up with the rake down, and he bent both of these arms. Okay, so both arms were bent. I couldn't get the right ones from H&S because the guy at the dealership, I don't know whether his brain was broken or what, but he sent me something that wasn't that, and by the time that was done, we had broken another one of the rakes, so we just started cannibalizing this rake. So this is the action rake that I kind of liked a lot, and we made some improvements to it by welding caps, end caps, because these would break off. This rake is a decent rake. That was supposed to replace these, but it wouldn't because it was only a mid-capacity rake. These rakes have the individual arms, and they have these weird pivots like this here. See how that pivots like that? And what that does is it puts an awful lot of stress here and here. I don't like this rake. I used it because they worked and they were quick, but personally, this is really technically just a mid-capacity rake like that. The only difference was there was enough room underneath because it had 60-inch wheels. Now I have 2 more of these rakes around the back there. I'm selling one, and I'm going to take the other one and cannibalize it and put all that cannibalized stuff onto this rake and make this rake a functioning rake again. That mid-capacity rake from Peckway is going back. But I just wanted to see, sometimes you need to cannibalize stuff, and there you go. This had the 60-inch wheels. I should go find that other rake though. I'll find it. I'm probably just going to cut out the cannibalized hay rake part, at least a little bit of it, the majority of it, because I'm going to show you one of the I think they are HR12s, H&S, I think they're HR12s. I think that's what this is. This is the rake that I built, one of the rakes that I built that big thing on, and that worked. For the most part, it worked pretty okay. But this is what this rake is supposed to look like, and the problems that I had with this rake, and this is probably the rake that I'm going to sell. The problems that I had with this rake were here. These would break off all the time. These would break out all the time. See that? That's broke out. Capped that one. Why this one we didn't cap, I have no idea. We capped the other end. But these wheels, these 60-inch wheels are on a pivot, and there's no springs or anything to stop them from just doing this crap all the time. And that pivot there is another point that caused contention with me. It just really pissed me off that it was like that. But there was plenty of clearance. As you can see, the hay would come, and these were rounded, and you can see the rubbing there. And of course, when you get all the way, down here, you can see that it was rubbing pretty aggressively. But these rakes are fast. I think this is the oldest one. But these rakes are really, really fast. Really, really fast. When you go to the field, you just go to the field, you unfold it, and you go. Okay? And that's it. You're good. You're good to go. They just go. But they're high maintenance because we are using them to do thousands of acres a year, where they're really only designed to do 400 to 500 acres a year. So what we're doing is we're exhausting their life expectancy in just a few short years, and having to buy parts to repair and just make them work better, more often and faster. So if you're going to be doing thousands of acres, I don't suggest a rake like this. But if you're going to do like 300, 400, 500 acres a year, and that's a lot really for a small operation, but these rakes I would recommend 100%, or even that Peckway up there. As far as the hitch is concerned, I have no issues with the hitch from that to this point. But when you get to here, there's a pivot in there, and that pivot, that stupid pivot, is the problem with the whole damn rake, in my opinion. It pulls from that point right dead center, and you can see what I have done here to repair that, or fix that. I didn't like it, so I did all that work in there, and still, even after that, we still had breakages here. I ended up chopping the end of it off, shoving a piece of tubing clear across through the center of it, which solved all the problems on that one. So that was that. So now I'm going to move on to what I actually just got. And the reason I just got this is because I saw it a couple of years ago, and I was going to build my own rake, but I decided that I just didn't have the time to do it. And that's just a fact. I didn't have the time to do it. So I bought another H&S Action rake, but this is a different story. This is a 3112, and it is wider. It's definitely wider. To go down the roads, you're going to be in a wider situation. These arms are shorter, okay? Still 60-inch wheels on here, but instead of having twin pivots with no spring support, it is all spring supported. The tension on the ground, or the pressure on the ground from the raking wheels, is all adjusted right here by this crank. So when you unfold this thing, you set it up to be very light on the ground, because if you make it too tight on the ground, it wears your teeth out. And if you look at these rake teeth on here, these are the 7mm, not the 6mm, and I can confer that these are 8mm, because that's a 7mm ring. Yeah, so this is what I ended up with, and they did some improvements. I was always sticking grease on here because it was wearing this part here, and grease is messy and kind of stupid to do. But they did change the position of the hydraulic cylinders so that they would be, wider. It's a wider deal. And to adjust it, still has the same adjusting rod, but there's no double pivot there. It's just a single pivot, because all that pivot that thing was doing this way, not this way, this way, this was doing this, is all taken up by these springs. You see that? So, and those springs are all attached to this steel rod. Okay? So, that is really one of the reasons that I decided to go with the H&S, was the position of these springs, because I never had any problems with the HS12 or HR12s or the 2112 rake bunching up in heavy windrows. I mean, this thing will take 32 feet of hay and put it out the back without ever having it bunch up, which is a good thing. And the reason for that was because all the spring mechanism is on top. And I talked with Peckway and tried to convince them that you really need to put that on top. Instead of sticking it on the bottom, make it a pull spring instead of a compression spring. That'll eliminate a lot of your bounce, because it just would eliminate a lot of the bounce because of the weight of the hay, and it will clear up the bottom end of your rake. is if you look across here, and there's grease zerks on every one of these, which is great. Obviously you can see them, but this is a nice clean bottom of the rake, so that hay can come across there and never catch. And if it does catch, you know what, so what? I go with a grinder and I cut that thing off of there and paint it if it does catch. But it's not going to catch because this is exactly the same type of arm here. And look at this, they boxed it. They did exactly what I did. This makes this 30% stronger by just putting that little end cap on there. That's it, 30% stronger, that end cap. And they should have done it on both ends. If they didn't, I'm going to cap the other end as well. But I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, 30% stronger. You take 30% just in that little bit of an action there, makes a huge difference. Constantly with the other ones, we broke these out. They would just tear off and that was the end of them. Did a little bit different here. Instead of it being more steep, they actually cut this and made it a notch, which adds a shit ton more strength right there. It just makes it a lot stronger, and it's easier to do and cheaper because you won't have to gusset it or fish plate it or plate it there like that. To adjust the height of or the width of this thing, you take the jack, that jack that's up front there, and you place it here, and you just pull this pin and you crank it up. You can go up to I think 28 feet or maybe 30 feet with this one. Just a much better design. A shout out to the ground. Now, just a big shout out to John Deere out there in Allentown, Deer Country of Allentown. They gave me a hell of a price for this thing. Didn't really ask for what I got a price, and then today I was pleasantly surprised that it was actually less than what I was quoted. And they didn't have to do that because I was okay with what they had quoted me. But I appreciate it. So Adam and Jared out at Deer Country, thank you so much. And I will be obviously making films of this thing. And if there's any problems, I own this rake. It's not a gift. I don't owe anybody anything on it. It is mine, and it will go to the field. And if there's a problem, believe me, H&S will know because I'm not going to be unvocal about it because I own it. I bought it. But I do like the way it is put together. I like the way it's built. I like this over that other knuckle thing because it's solid. It's solid. And you can grease it. But they did get a little stupid with their grease zerks. It actually should be a 90 instead of a 45, and it should be facing me instead of facing out the back. Because in order to really grease that thing, I would actually have to take this pin out and flop the thing down and do that, which is dumb. So I will fix that myself, and I'll probably show it when I do it. Regular trailer tires, anyone can go to Tractor Supply and buy a tire and throw on here and be back running if you're out in the field and something, and Tractor Supplies are open 7 days a week. So if you're ever, you know, like with the Peckway Tedder and the Peckway, well, that Peckway up there has the same style thing, but the Peckway Tedder, what a nightmare. I'm just not even going to say it, but what a nightmare. That had airplane tires on it, and airplane tires are not easy to get. Not only are they not easy to get, they're near impossible to get, and when you do get one, it was made in the 50s. Not in the size 50s, in the 1950s, meaning the year. The last two tires that I put on that Peckway Tedder were 1958, and I think 1961 were the tires that I got. And I put them on, and because they're so old and dry rotted, they failed as well. So I'm not a fan of that tire style or that choice for that thing. And even though they gave it to me to use, I liked the use of it. It was a good tedder for durability, but you know, I think that the Krone tedder did a better job. I liked the tedder, don't get me wrong, it did dry the hay, but you really had to ted it twice to get the even distribution of the grass or hay that you're trying to dry out. I have a Kuhn tedder, and I think the Kuhn tedder, even though it's 20 years old, it was a... Apparently, my battery in that, Olympus camera died. I have a brand new one of these Olympus cameras. I cannot find it, but anyways, I'm hoping that the video quality is good enough until I can get my ass down in North Carolina and pick up my other two GoPro cameras that I have. I lost the one that had all the footage on it, but let's just say we finish up this video with two things. First things first, on the Peckway tedder, I think I left you off with the tires were just, atrocious. And yes, you can put regular implement tires on them, but the weight rating of the implement tire was not as high as the airplane tire, and I think it was extraordinarily heavy. For road travel, and that's all those things really were, for road travel. And I did like the tedder. I'm not disrespecting Peckway in any way. I thought the tedder was easily serviceable. It was well put together. We never had any major breakdowns with it. Tines, for some reason, the tines, but that's normal for any of these things. When you're doing really super heavy hay, you break tedder tines, and I'm not a tedder fan anyway. So, when I was making really nice, good hay, then I used the tedder, but yeah. So they took that back, they took the spreader back, and now they're going to take this other Peckway rake back, and I appreciate everything that Peckway did for me by bringing them out. I don't know whether I did what they wanted me to do, like most equipment companies want you to do, is, we'll give this to you, and you're going to tell everybody how much you love it, whether you love it or not. But Peckway, I appreciate everything, and I hope that I hope people buy your equipment. I mean, you're a good company, good to work with, and parts are readily available. Just do away with the stupid airplane tires. That's it. And on a last note, I want to talk about Messick's equipment. Messick's equipment. So yesterday, Messick's equipment, Neil Messick to be exact, posted a video, and probably the best video that he has ever done. And it was kind of about farm equipment, but not really about farm equipment. It was about Clarkson Farm. Now, I'm not an Amazon Prime subscriber. I don't know much about it. But I did hear about Clarkson Farm through YouTube. Other people have talked about Clarkson Farm, and I thought that was kind of funny about Clarkson Farm. But he posted a very, very, very incredible video about Clarkson Farm, which is wanting me to go and subscribe to Amazon Prime and pay for the service so that I can watch the thing. And he talks about Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy Clarkson, obviously, most people that watch this TV show or this YouTube channel knows about Jeremy Clarkson in Top Gear. He was one of the old guys that just tore shit up and had a good time doing it. They would get these cars and trucks and whatever they had and tore them up. They made a snowbine years ago. Well, Jeremy Clarkson actually has a farm. It's like 550 acres, and he farmed it for a year. And you go through the process of his trials, tribulations, struggles, and successes. He did turn a profit. I'm not going to say what it was because I haven't watched the series, but I heard what Neil had said. And go to Messick's Equipment and on YouTube and watch that video, because it really, really, truly was one of the best videos that Neil has done. Neil, if you're watching this, you have missed your calling. You really should be a narrator for something. I mean, you could be like for Gold Rush or something, for God's sakes. You're awesome. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, just go check out my friends over at Messick's Equipment and enjoy that last video that they posted, because I surely did. And I guess I'm going to have to go spend money on Amazon Prime so I can watch Jeremy Clarkson's Clarkson Farm.